Again, hello dear students, welcome to our online classes, and today we will be together learning how to write a conclusion section together with all of you. I'm glad to see you, and I hope you have already reached the conclusion level in your research field, and I really hope that in our today's class will give you the extra knowledge how to write a conclusion. Initially, let's learn what is conclusion, okay? Conclusion is of writing a strong conclusion in a research paper, means summarizing the main findings, reflecting on their significance, and offering recommendations and acknowledging the limitations. So that is the main, we can say, the important mission of the conclusion of every conclusion, right? In the conclusion, what we have to do, initially we have to restate the main purpose and main findings in the first paragraph. Mainly we do this, briefly remind the reader what was your research was about it, and highlight the key result, right? For example, this study examined the impact of foreign direct investment, for example, on economic growth in Central Asian countries. The analysis revealed that the FDI, foreign direct investment, significantly contributes to GDP growth, particularly in Uzbekistan and in Kazakhstan, for example. So here, in the first sentence, we need to briefly restate what was our main object. Again, one more time, okay? So that the reader should remember again, okay, in the conclusion, what kind of important sections as we researchers discuss it in this field, right? And the next part should focus the significance of the findings. Here we have to say what kind of findings we have achieved and how much those findings are important for us to make a decision to give a certain policy recommendations for the society in order to develop this field. Explain why your findings matter and how they contribute to existing knowledge or practice. That is the main part, okay? And these findings highlight the importance of creating favorable investment environment to attract FDI, which can serve as a catalyst for regional economic development. So this is the next section where we have to discuss the significance, how much these are important of how we have such kind of findings. This is the significance of the findings, right? And then a very important section is the acknowledging the limitations. It's obviously every research will have some limitations that we are skipping. Every research, even the PhD dissertations, they are skipping certain issues. They cannot cover everything. There is some limitations because this is a research world. In research, we always miss some aspect. It's impossible to cover all the cases together in one research. That's why in the conclusion section, we have to acknowledge the limitations. We have to clearly state what kind of limitations do we have in our research. That's why we have to be honest what your research could not cover, right? This shows academic integrity and helps readers interpret your results correctly. At the same time, your mentioning limitations will open a new avenue for another researchers to do a research in this field. Yes, dear researchers, dear students, it's like this. When you mention the limitation, it's actually a new gap, new field for another scholars to do a research. That's why it's very important for you to acknowledge the limitation. For example, in our case, this study has several limitations. First, it focuses only on 5 Central Asian countries, which may limit the generalizability of the findings. Second, the analysis did not account for the role of informal sectors or political stability, which may also influence economic outcomes. So that's what here clearly the author mentioned the limitations, and this is what you have to also do, all of you. Thank you so much. And the last one is provide the recommendations. It doesn't matter, initially you can provide the recommendations and then limitations. You can actually change order based on your findings. You have to offer practical suggestions for policymakers and for the future research as well. Because what is the main we can say the mission of doing research. The main important section of doing any kind of research is to provide policy recommendations. It's because you are doing research in order to solve the certain issue. You are doing research to give a certain recommendations for in order to cure, in order to solve this field, right? And that's why you need to give policymakers a clear recommendations how to cure this field, how to solve this field, right? And this field, how to, what we have to do in order to solve this field. That is for we need to provide for the policy makers as a recommendation. Let's give an example here. Policymakers should focus on strengthening legal frameworks and reducing bureaucratic barriers to encourage more foreign investment. Future research could explore the sector-specific impact of FDI or include qualitative insights from industry experts, right? And that's what we do in the as one of the important section for the policy recommendation section. Here we can see my own research as an example, where I mentioned as a subsection, initially as a one section, the conclusion, then we have a policy recommendation as a subsection, and the limitation of the study. Very practical. This paper was published in the PLOS ONE journal, and you can see how, for example, the limitations is mentioning as a drawback to the study with the keywords like a drawback, however, like these keywords, and then the policy recommendation also mentioned with a 2-paragraph clearly for the case of the it was for Asian countries. Several authorities of the Asian countries mentioned very detailed with the specific sectors, which sectors has to be improved, right? And that's actually for today's conclusion section. I hope you are writing a very high quality conclusion section with a practical implication. That means include policy recommendations as well. Remember, dear students, your conclusion has to mainly focus your general summarizing and then your main findings. You have to restate what was your oral findings. In the next paragraph you have to mention that what kind of recommendations you are going to give to the authorities, and the last paragraph should end with the limitations of the study, because for sure every research you have limitations, and the most important thing is you have to state is stated, you have to mention those recommendations one by one. I hope the conclusion section was clear, and see you in our next lectures, hopefully again together in offline format. Thank you, goodbye.